Okay, good morning. Welcome to the Alpine Church of Spiritual Living. I'm going to be reading the thought for the week, and you can join me down at the bottom in the bold area. As we study the life and teachings of Jesus, who became the Christ, the great example and way shower, we see the power in crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension. Most folks like the idea of resurrection and ascension, but want to ignore or forget that our crucifixion must precede those experiences. Many of us have experienced dark nights of the soul, and hopefully can look back on them and recognize the value and growth they provided, primarily due to the ever-present and victorious Christ spirit within. Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of the Unity Movement as a young woman, was struck with tuberculosis, which at the time was considered a death sentence. She was a woman of great spiritual vision and used the power of faith-filled words to regenerate her body temple. Using the power of spoken word, she systematically praised and blessed her body for its perfect functioning. She went on to live a full, rich life to the age of 86. That, my dear friends, is an example of resurrection. Are you facing a physical, mental, or emotional challenge, a dark night of the soul? Go within to commune with your body temple, which is whole, complete, and perfect. Speak or sing its praises. If there is anything to forgive in your life, forgive and let it go. Kenneth Carey writes, "You are not your body. You are not your thoughts. You are not what you feel, not what you experience, or your role. You are the spirit of life itself, dancing in the clay, delighting in the glorious experience of incarnation, exploring the realms of matter, blessing the earth, and all therein." Say with me, "No matter what my experience, I know I am spirit, and as such delight and call forth my innate wholeness into expression. I let go and know all is well, and it is so." Well, it may be strange to think about talking about our resurrection experience on January 29th.
Let's go for it.
Let's go for it, huh? Whether we are a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, it doesn't matter about our faith tradition. Resurrection really, in the whole totality of experiences, is a much broader concept than just what we think of in our Christian tradition being in the Easter time. So as I wrote in the thought for the week, I just read that we have a tendency to like the idea of the resurrection, but we forget about the fact that there has to be a death, a dying away of something previous to that resurrection. What we're talking about here is not necessarily a physical death, but a rising up of the consciousness of where we are. And trusting that we, especially as metaphysicians of New Thought teachings, that we want to continually rise above our previous experience of consciousness. That we are, this is what our grounding is that we want to rise up in consciousness each and every day. Do you remember what we're talking about is the book primarily this month of New Thought Principles, written by April Moncrief. And what she reminded us, and it's very established, if you have done much training in New Thought, in our teachings, is that these came up to the attention of the people primarily in the United States about mid-1800s, early 1900s. And the folks back then, you remember, there wasn't the amount of physical medicines available to them that we have today. I mean, I had a heart valve transplant and a part of the aortic artery changed out a few months ago. They didn't have that type of option back then. And so when someone was telling them that you can change your physicality based on your thoughts and your consciousness, they listened and they wanted to take it to heart. And that's exactly what Myrtle Fillmore did, the co-founder of Unity, when she heard the words, when she went to a lecture, and they said, "You are a child of God, you cannot inherit disease." And she had always thought that this was my lot in life. My parents had this. It's like one of those things where, oh yeah, I'm just going to accept that I'm going to die an early death. Well, she took it to heart, and she literally started praising her body. And she took to heart the Proverbs 17:22. "A merry heart doeth good work like medicine, and the joy of the Lord is my strength." She later wrote in her book, Understanding the Body, "We need to use the vigorous life of spirit to build up our body temple. Let us pour out upon our organism blessings of praise for the good work it is doing in establishing wholeness. Let us think of ourselves as already manifesting perfection in mind, soul, and body, and give thanks that divine order is now established." I know after my heart surgery, that was something that just amazed me when I stopped and thought about how this body knows what it's doing, that it can just rejuvenate itself, that all those little cells, they were disturbed, obviously. And so they had to think on their feet. They had to know, oh gosh, okay, now it's time to do this and this and this. And I would lie there and just think, thank you. How wonderful it is that this body knows what it's doing and I don't have to direct it. All I need to do is acknowledge it, that it is doing its work through me. And I still am praising my body because I've got another little thing going on that I'd like it to be perfect, whole, and complete. And that's what I'm seeing. That's what and I am seeing some improvement. It's interesting how that we can literally change the physicality of our being based on our thoughts, our expectations, our faith, and so forth. In the book that we're studying, April Moncliffe wrote, "New Thought has been, since its inception in the mid-19th century, a healing philosophy. The ability of consciousness to recreate the body and restore it to its rightful pattern as the image and likeness of God is taught, embraced, and practiced throughout the New Thought movement." In the book, she had the word practiced italicized, kind of sits sideways. Practiced. That means that you have to do something about it. That's why I appreciate our book study that we have, and Mr. Bell's bringing us the handout that he did last week. And I don't know if you've had a chance to read it or not. Hopefully you have, the ones that are in the book club. But that last bit is a treatment that written, I believe, by Ernest Holmes. And so it just establishes us in the truth of what is happening. You see, we're trying to join our physicality, our humanness, to the recognition that this is a beautiful vessel through which the divine is working, through which the divine is living. And so I can set aside, all of my worries, all of my concerns, and know that this life that is living itself through me knows what it's doing, just like my physical cells know what they're doing. One of the things that we have in our New Thought movement is we call our prayer partners. You know, some people have, some different denominations have prayer partners. Our prayer partners are called practitioners. That's because they practice knowing that there is one power and presence, and that includes every one of us. And that we, as a practitioner, work with our own self, our own mind, our own consciousness, to know the truth for that other individual that has asked us to know the truth for them. I love what April wrote in the book. She was reminding us of Jesus's words. Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? She goes on to say, typically this quote has been used to imply it is impossible for mental processes to alter physical conditions. You just hear Jesus say, who among you can do this, right? Just by thought. Alternately, Jesus's question can be read as a challenge, an invitation to his listeners to demonstrate the power of the right thought to affect discernible positive changes in the physical body. It all depends on how you take what he said. And who among you can? Who among you? Show me. Bring it forth. I think Charles Fillmore, who was the other founder of the Unity Movement, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore took this to heart. He had an affliction, I don't remember the details of it, but he had one leg that was shorter than the other by a pretty good amount. And once he recognized these principles of new thought, he would go into the silence every night. Consistency, every night, and envision that leg being whole, complete, and perfect, and the same length as the other leg. Now, I don't remember how long it took. I think it was years, but his leg grew. He did physically change his body by his practicing the presence, by doing it consistently. I was talking with my mentor, and she reminded me of that. I said, oh yeah, I remember that about Charles Fillmore. And she said, yeah, well, remember, Gay, that he did it every day, I think, for years. We're talking about elevating a consciousness here that does take practice. It takes intention, because what ends up happening in life? We get so balled up in all the outside events. I was telling somebody today, oh, I've got to run home because I got to watch football.
And she meant it.
I did. But that's just, we just get so caught up in the stuff of life that we need to remember to put first things first. And I did do my spiritual reading, my prayers, and my meditation this morning. First things first, so that we can have the demonstration, the experience of the wholeness of our body that it is in whatever activity we're in whatever sort of relationship that we're in, that we demonstrate it, we let it out. Remember that Charles Fillmore, when he was successful in that leg, he was demonstrating his oneness with the one. He had faith. He knew that this is how it can work. Faith and knowing are an amazing element that we need to enlist if we're going to experience the wholeness that we are. Now, I believe, and I put it in the thought for the week, that many of us have experienced a dark night of the soul. That there is in this life, there's this thing that, the roller coaster, the ups and the downs. I think that's just part of the human experience. And many of us, if we felt that we were broken, that we need to be healed, I think those experiences, if we look at them in a different light, we can look at them as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for change. One of the things that the pamphlet or the little copies that Hugh gave out at the book study was talking about precedence. What is it again? Oh gosh. Principle. Principle is not predicated on precedence. So in other words, just because it's always been that way doesn't mean that it's going to have to be that way. That life is about change. Oh my gosh, we're going to have to change. That's the way it is, guys. We are continually sloughing off, dying, as so to speak. We are continually dying away of the old. You know, I love to think about, and we talked about it many times, the example of the caterpillar and how the caterpillar goes into that chrysalis, into that cocoon, and comes out as the butterfly. Many times we in our lives feel like we're in that chrysalis, we're in that cocoon, we're in that dark space, and we don't know what's going on. That's the time when we are available, having choice, to go within and know that there is a spirit within me, there is a wholeness within me that knows what it is doing. And then I can step my egoic side aside from that and trust and know that whatever is within me is going to emerge as the highest and best that it can. And I think many times in life, we cannot understand why something happens. When we hit some of those dark nights of the soul, when they are, this bowl is over, it does feel like a physical death. Especially for me, the one is the death of my son, is at the top of the list. Don't understand it. I don't get it. But what I do know is that it is his path, that it is his life. I think I've told you before, shortly after his passing, I had given Adeline, his daughter, when she was 1 year old, a little car, quote unquote. It's just a plastic thing. It's a Minnie Mouse thing, and you can sit on it and move your feet. And it has buttons that you push for the horn and different noises it makes. And after Burke's passing, that little car would just go off all the time, making noises, boop, 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 all these things, tick-tock, tick-tock. And we'd say, oh, I guess Burke's here, you know, and so we'd smile and say, hey, Burke, you know, what's up? And as I went over there this last week, I realized, I thought, I haven't heard the little car going off lately. And I thought, okay, well, Burke, I know you're in your right and perfect place. Whatever you're doing is great. And so I sent him love and blessings. So last night, Becky and I went out for the Italian dinner at the Women's Club. And congratulations, Kathy, on winning bingo. So we were driving home, and I have my iPod playing the music, and it's on shuffle, so you never know what's going to come up. And we're going along, and the song from Toy Story, "You've got a friend in me, you've got a friend in me." You know that song? Well, that song was the song that Burke had chosen for he and I to dance to at his wedding. And I always thought that was so cool, because if you listen to the words, it's, you got a friend in me, no matter what. And so I said, well, thank you, Bert. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for letting me know that you're here. It's hard not to do this without springing drops. And so all of us have challenges in life. But if we can keep the knowing, the accepting, the faith, that there is a power, not just within me, but in everything and everyone, that this life that we are living, that it is living us, I should say, knows what it's doing. It is whole, it is complete, it is perfect. And if we can only have the eyes to see that, to recognize that, to live from that acceptance, that no matter what it looks like to my earthly eyes, there is a divine plan, there is a divine order here that will bring itself forth in the right and perfect timing. So I wanted to close today by reading that quote that was in the thought for the week. I thought it's just so spot on. I don't know who Kenneth Carey is. I'm going to have to look him up. You are not your body. You are not your thoughts. You are not what you feel, not your experience or your role. You are the spirit of life itself, dancing in the clay. Don't you love that? Dancing in the clay, delighting in the glorious experience of incarnation, exploring the realms of matter, blessing the earth and all therein. That's our job. That's what we're here to be and what we're here to do. Love and blessings to you all. Namaste.